Hey everyone, it's Aaron Rosen here from RLTA. I'm here with Ali Vandersanden. Hey Ali.
Hi.
So we're here just talking about how curriculum is not just something that you do at school, it's also in the culture. So curriculum as a culture. And what we mean by that is that RLTA, what Ali and I were writing the digital brochure that you can see online, you can download it for free, that curriculum that we write out and say, okay, you're going to do this for part of the day, you're going to do that for part of the day. That's traditionally what's thought of as curriculum. And what we have noticed, and you probably will recognize this too, at any school institution, that curriculum is part of the culture. It's the learning environment. It's the physical space. It's the attitude, the perspectives of the teachers, of the families, the community, those relationships. So it's a dynamic curriculum. So curriculum is not just what you do, it's how you're living in the school environment. So with curriculum, we explore it as a culture. So for instance, the flow of our day at RLTA may look similar to some schools and it may look different. For instance, we always start off with gratitude, song, and just doing a check-in, just an emotional check-in with the kids. Even before that, though, if I just back up, at drop-off, there's the culture of welcoming, the culture of there being some free play as kids just get their bodies moving and they've been sitting in the car for the car ride and they want to move, especially young kids, they want to move their bodies. So we let them move their bodies. And then we come in and we gather up for gratitude and sharing circles and song so that we can meet together and find out where we're all at. So that's part of our culture. That's one aspect of our culture that started to create a curriculum. So there's the aspect of gratitude and thankfulness, and listening is also a part of the curriculum. Does that make sense to you guys? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, Ali? Yeah.
I know what you're saying.
Because you're there every day. So
I'm there too.
so that's the structure of our, so that's part of the structure of our day. So how we set up our flow so that everything can go. So we have the people arriving, we have the song, we have the gratitude, then we have a segment of a focus time where the learning buffet is present, where the theme is being introduced, and then we have ample opportunities for snacks and breaks for the kids to move their bodies, especially if it's an indoor activity, because there's usually a threshold, sort of a window, if you will, of tolerance that the students have before it's like, they may not verbalize this, but you'll see it in their bodies. They start wriggling and moving around, and the paintbrush stops going on the paper and starts going to their neighbor, and they just want to move. They need to move. So then we take a break, have some food, refuel, and then refocus by getting the blood flowing, and then coming back in and starting again with another section of focus. Or in our case, we break for lunch, then we have a story time, our siesta to integrate what's been going on, and then we have another block of focus time mixed with breaks, and then a recapitulation of the day, or what was your favorite part of the day, our sharing circle. So we just look at what has happened during the day, what was our favorite parts, a moment of reflection to look at what went on for me as a student and how I am going to take that forward. Because what we also do at that point is we ask some questions. We ask, what did you like about that? What was your favorite thing? We do our art of questioning. So some very simple questions that are easily answerable. And then maybe there's some at one point when we have a good relationship with the students, some take-home questions, what else could you learn this evening with your family? How could you expand on this in your home life? So that's sort of the flow of the day. from the beginning to the end. So this is all intentional, and that's also there to support some of the content that's happening during the day, but also to support the mental processes and physical processes, like the mental being the thinking and the ideas that are introduced and the integrating them into our lives, and the physical being the physical bodies that need tending with the food and the running and the playing and the drinking water, right? And doing things that appeal to both of those things. And with the singing, to appeal to a sense of unity, a sense of group connection as well, that we are there together. Something that's not thought or seen, is sort of unseen. It's maybe, an element of like a spiritual element to our day, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's us. That's what we're trying to touch on, all those things, and in just the basic structure of our day. So, but if you were to go into the physical environment, there's another layer of curriculum. So, Ali, you want to take it from there with the physical environment that the students find themselves in every day?
Yeah, so like Erin has been talking about, the energy flow throughout the day and the structure of the day is all makes up part of our curriculum, but the actual physical environment does as well. And I wanted to talk a little bit about how our carefully prepared learning environment lends itself to curriculum or makes up a part of the curriculum. So something that you'll notice, hopefully, when you come to visit us at our new location is that a pattern that's often repeating is the circle. So like Erin said, we begin and end our day in circle, but also a lot of our physical spaces are round. So our new classrooms are going to be yomes, which are sort of a round canvas tent structure. Then also we often gather around the fire pit to sing songs, share gratitude, like Erin said. And then our actual schoolyard, our little school clearing, is round as well. And that shape is really important to us because I think it lends itself to kind of a nurturing or a comforting and cozy atmosphere. It's very inclusive, it's very open, and it sort of lends itself to sharing and to check-ins. So it's just kind of worked out really well that our new classroom structures are actually shaped like that. I think it works really well for us. In addition to this, our learning environment, you've probably heard us talk a little bit about the learning buffet, which basically means that there are choices, that the students have the opportunity to move through the physical space and pick up and explore things that are calling to them. So that looks like different learning stations. Now we've organized this so that one of our yomes will be more of a sort of quiet focused space where you might find something like a reading corner, a literacy table, math materials, that kind of thing. Whereas the other yome might have activities that are a little bit more high energy or high volume. So things like drama or music. We have some musical instruments, building materials, that kind of thing. So that when the student enters each of those spaces, it works. So if one person is, quietly reading, they're not going to be interrupted by somebody who chooses to be tinkering with musical instruments at that time. In addition to this, something that I just wanted to mention that's really unique about us is that beyond these indoor classroom spaces, we've got the farm, we've got the forest, and we've just got nature at large as one of our classrooms. So the actual location, the physical space of our school makes up a huge part of our curriculum and our culture.
Awesome. Thanks, Ali. So the other part of our culture as curriculum is our culture of knowledge sharing. And one of the ways that this occurs, of course, is through some of the things that Ali mentioned, where there's stations, there's the learning buffet, there's all the input all around the students. Another aspect of how that comes into play is with our intergenerational setup. So because we want the students, of course, using the appropriate methodologies that are being mandated with COVID, is that they are able to interact and teach each other different skills and projects. So if one student is interested in, let's say, a certain type of a craft activity, while another one is doing money math. But one says, oh, what are you doing over there? They can see that. Or if it's an older student who's doing money math and there's a younger student who's looking over their shoulder watching them do it, they are now being able to have an exchange, a knowledge exchange, where the older student can say, oh, look at this, like, this is how you do it. This is what I'm noticing. This is what I'm learning. And then the younger student, and it can go the other way as well, of course, can say, this is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm noticing. So that's the knowledge exchange that is occurring all the time, that it's a culture of sharing information from student to student. So not just this way, not just the vertical exchange of teacher to student, but a horizontal exchange. And there's a lot of great benefits in that, because maybe as a parent, you've noticed this. This is where I see it often, is that you tell your child to, like, here's to learn something, and then they're just like, oh, no, whatever, mom, whatever, dad, right? But then someone who's a peer that they have a different type of relationship with says the same thing, and they're just, oh yeah, okay, and you're looking at perplexed, looking at like, what is the same? That's what I said. So there's a magic to that peer-to-peer, or an intergenerational, in terms of like peer intergenerational, like a slightly older student and a slightly younger student interacting, that they have the ability to teach each other more horizontally rather than this top-down dissemination of information. So that's that. That's the intergenerational learning. So
Awesome.
is the mindfulness. So Ali's going to just share on that a bit.
Yeah, so something else that's sort of built into our school culture is mindfulness and emotional intelligence. So this isn't something that we set out to teach the kids about. We don't sit them down and give them a lesson about emotional intelligence or mindfulness. It's something that we try to build into our everyday culture. So every morning, Erin mentioned we have a morning circle. And at Morning Circle, we check in with what we're feeling grateful for or excited for that day. We check in with our emotions. Another way that we sort of work in mindfulness and emotional intelligence is having a common corner, having a space in our classroom that children can self-regulate in. So somewhere that they can go and check in with their own emotions, they can care for themselves. They have some resources there to help them maybe name or navigate through their emotions. We make use of, I believe they're called peacemakers cards, right, Erin? So they've got a range of different emotion cards so that kids can look at them visually and maybe help identify what they are feeling. And then some resources, some tools for returning to your calm center. So that's a really important aspect of our physical classroom that helps kids to sort of navigate their emotional selves. Every day, we also try to do a mindfulness exercise in the morning. So whether that is a breathing exercise or calming our minds or moving our bodies, we always try to work that into our morning routine. So again, it's not something that we sit down and we teach the kids about or tell them that this is something that we have to do. It's something that we just kind of try to build into our routine, always checking in with how we're feeling, checking in with different things that we're noticing, what's going on around us, so that we sort of build that culture of mindfulness and emotional intelligence and regulation.
Yeah. Yeah, another word that comes to my mind when I hear you talk about that, Ali, is awareness, which is one of our core values.
Mm-hmm.
So like Ali was just saying, when we're out and about, what did you just hear there? Being mindful of what's around you, just noticing what you're hearing, noticing what you're seeing, notice what you're smelling. These are all mindfulness activities. Sometimes mindfulness is only painted as you're meditating. That's how you're being mindful. But mindfulness is a much broader stroke of a state of awareness of yourself and your environment, and staying aware consciously. So
yeah, absolutely. think it's kind of a culture of noticing
Yeah.
is what I would call it, a culture of noticing. So sort of opening your mind so that whether it's noticing what's going on inside of you, or maybe noticing that something is going on with a peer, maybe they're not okay, or maybe they are, maybe they're super excited about something, or whether it's something around you, like Erin said, you know, noticing sounds, noticing textures, noticing smells, and just kind of broadening your awareness to all of those things.
Awesome. Sweet. Okay. Just a couple more aspects that we've thought of that might be helpful to let you know about. Another aspect of curriculum as the culture is the 3 respects. So we have usually in the intro week for our full-time students, when we have forest days, this is introduced when they come for the first time as well. But for our intro week of school and throughout the year, it all comes down in our interactions with the students to a contract, a social contract, if you will, of the 3 respects. And so the social contract is we are agreeing at the beginning, at the outset of the year, as in when we're going to be together, that we are going to respect ourselves, and we are going to respect each other, and we're going to respect the environment around us, whether it's the natural environment or the school buildings and the infrastructure. So those are the 3 respects that those need to be adhered to. And of course, they're broken all the time. So, which just leads to amazing learning opportunities for us to bring mindfulness, bring some awareness to those, whatever respect it is that is being brought forward as we need to look at it. So in terms of respecting ourselves, we have part of that curriculum is making sure that the students are staying aware of drinking enough water throughout the day, wearing the appropriate clothing, managing their clothing system. And of course, we're helping them with it and asking them questions like, oh, it seems that you picked this to wear on a day like this. And, you know, maybe it was a poor choice to come with your tank top when it's minus 30 outside today. So of course we're not going to allow that to occur. We're not going to let them go outside in something like that. But just as an example of how we try to bring some awareness and make it a conversation, so that we're just talking about it. And then another aspect of taking care of ourselves is not just physically taking care of our physical needs, but also taking care of our minds. So sometimes, and some students get into a pattern of self-deprecation, or saying, I'm no good at this, or some really harsh negative self-talk, which sometimes happens for some kids. And this type of thing is another example where we're saying, well, are we being kind to ourselves? Are we taking care of ourselves when that's going on? Because sometimes that's also an important part of taking care of ourselves, is taking care of the way that we treat ourselves, whether the way we talk to ourselves with our thoughts and being aware of them, being mindful of them, to the food and we eat and the clothes we wear. Anything you would add to that first respect, Ali?
No, I don't think so. I think you've said it.
Okay, great. The second one, so taking care of the each other. You can see right away that those 2 things that I mentioned, the physical, taking care of ourselves, and the mental, can be now, how do I do this to my friend sitting across from me? How do I say encouraging things to them? How do I help their mental state be uplifted instead of talking down to them or giving them harsh criticism that's not necessary? And so how do we uplift each other around us? And the other aspect is just helping each other put on each other's shoes, you know, doing up a bootstrap, doing up that Velcro, because for those little ones, sometimes even those Velcro winter boots can pose a challenge. But together,
Yeah.
when they learn to work together on it, there are amazing strides that can be made. So that's that. And the flip to taking care of each other, and also, of course, keeping things as clean as possible with our physical interactions. That there's good contact with each other, and then there's negative contact with each other. So keeping things peaceful and keeping the violence out. And having conversations around that. So everyone's agreeing to this. And so if anything happens, which of course it does with kids from time to time, that we just say, hey, back to our contract. Is this respecting each other? And it just makes it really easy to have that. Oh yeah, of course we're going to talk about the 3 respects right now. And it makes sense. So they're used to it always being referenced over and over and over again, which makes it less, oh, now it's like this and now it's like that. It's the 3 respects, and this is the second respect that we're talking about. The third respect is taking care of the environment, and this is done by, on a group level, how we are choosing to help cultivate native species of plants, how we're taking out invasive species of plants to help the environment be better, how we are treating animals and plants around us, how we are taking care of buildings and materials and putting them away properly, and making sure that the class is clean, making sure that everything is tended to in our physical space, and that's also an important part of respecting the place that we live, is to make sure that we are keeping it clean and tidy and organized, as well as that we are taking care of the plants and animals and the environment, the natural environment all around us. So those are the 3 respects. And we also encourage families, if they would like, you're welcome to bring that home. This is not my original idea, the 3 respects. I've heard it in several different ways over many years, and you may have as well. So it just keeps it really simple and easy to understand for the kids. So I'm going to talk a little bit about part of our culture of inspiration-based learning. Tell us about that, Ali.
Yeah, so I think like this is probably the biggest one in terms of who we are. But it's really simple. Essentially, it's handing the students the map, like letting them take control of the map of where they are heading with their own learning. So rather than us coming up with all of the ideas and then feeding those things to the students, it's letting the learning kind of start with them and start with their questions that they are actually asking, not questions that we are asking them and then, sort of forcing them to answer, but questions that come from their genuine curiosity. So we really aim to work with the students to connect them with information or resources on the things that inspire them, on the things that they are actually curious about. So we do put forward themes. We put forward themes that are, we say, future conscious, so things that are, about the environment or the community, things going on in the world. We do put forward those themes and as sort of invitations, as sort of offers to explore. But we are also very flexible in that if there is something, a particular subject or a particular phenomenon, or an area of study that a child is interested in, we hope to be able to, bring them materials or resources, or if it's something that Aaron or I are not expert on, connecting them with maybe somebody in the community who is really really proficient in that skill. So always kind of offering them resources and connecting them with the information, facilitating learning on the things that they are actually curious about. So basically just letting the starting point of learning be also with the students sometimes, most of the time.
Awesome. Thanks, Ali. So this is just a quick synopsis, a quick introduction to our our curriculum as a culture at RLTA, and that's how we view curriculum as a holistic approach to curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
That it is not just a something you do; it's the way that you live day to day within the culture of the school. So, hope that helps. Gives you a little bit more of an understanding of us. And again, we have our brochure, which is available online on our website. You'll see it, the digital brochure, and we still have a few spaces left, just a couple in our Willow, which is our younger stream of kids. Now, when I say streaming, I'm not talking about what's been talked about in the media right now with academic streaming. It's not the same thing. It's just basically another word for a class. So we have a Willow class and we have a Maple class, and those two classes, they they are different age groups. So our 4 to 6 age group is our Willow. Sorry, they're 4 and 5 year olds. Is our Willow classroom. And those students, we have just a couple spots, and in Maple we have a few, but we are getting inquiries daily, especially with what's going on in the state of education and maybe some values that have been brought to light for different people out there. And this is what we are very grateful to all of our support from our families and our community and Haute Goat for hosting us. And we are looking forward to seeing you at the Road Less Traveled. And reach out. You can email myself at Aaron, AARON, at rltacademy.ca. You can also just use the contact form off of our website, and you'll get in touch with us as well. So we look forward to chatting with you soon, and have a great day. Stay cool. It's so hot.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.